So chances are, if you're over the age of 35 or so, then you are one of the lucky few who got to experience Final Fantasy in its prime. What's more, these games came along and hit you right when you were the most vulnerable, and they left an undeniable scar on your psyche. One that, whether you know it or not, stays with you to this very day. Now, if you're under 35, well, that's great. You had Final Fantasy VII, and you did whatever you did. Final Fantasy X came along at a weird time for me. First time I played it in my life was while recovering from oral surgery. Those were a fun few days. But the game's pretty solid. I mean, the combat is smooth, the spells look cool, characters speak during battle.
Take a number, buddy.
You can stop to power up in the sphere grid, play blitzball, collect monsters for the arena, and dodge lightning bolts. And then this happened. It was the first time that we had seen a direct sequel to a Final Fantasy title. I mean, sure, nowadays we have Final Fantasy IV, the after years, we have 13.2, 13.3, Final Fantasy XII has something on the DS, Revenant Wings or whatever, and then Final Fantasy VII has whatever all this is. Oh, and word to the wise here, I know it kind of goes without saying, but spoilers, major spoilers, incoming. Drop altitude. By the time of 10.2's release, I had played the first one at least 3 times over, so I was used to the way that it kind of presented itself, its characters, and its worlds to the player. It had this overly romantic and yet fantastic narrative that really got you by the balls. But it was also a very serious story, deeply rooted in stuff like politics, religion, racism, violence, regret, sorrow, loyalty, and neglect. Very rarely was the game funny or happy, especially in the second half. So by the time you hit the 30-minute mark or so on your first playthrough of this thing, of X-2 I mean, you're gonna be feeling the shock. And not just because of the strobe lights or Yuna wearing a short skirt, and singing J-pop tunes, or giant Buddha statues playing hover drums. There's just a lot going on here. That first battle, man, I mean, I still remember thinking, okay, I'm never getting used to this. The action was fast and furious, and you couldn't just wait around to put in your commands. There were chain attacks, the damage numbers were italicized, and so confusing! The atmosphere of 10.2 is pretty upbeat, in no small part thanks to music composers Noriko Matsueda and Takahito Iguchi. Yes, I don't speak Japanese, couldn't you tell? But yeah, that's right, this is the first time in all of Final Fantasy that Nobuo Uematsu took no part whatsoever. And honestly, it couldn't be more obvious. I can't tell you how many times I just stopped and thought, how weird is this? I was just strolling down Mushroom Rock Road to these funky beats. It almost feels like there's just this drone with a boombox constantly following you around. It definitely fits the tone of this game, but it's also a little jarring. It's a little weird. The tone of the game is justified, though. I mean, these people of Spira have been spending their whole lives living under a perpetual spiral of death. Likewise, Yuna herself, who not only had to live with the fear of death, but also knew exactly when and how it was going to happen. I don't envy that. I mean, this girl had written her own will, for crying out loud. I think I'd be a bit of a different person too after surviving all that. Of course, this comes with its own set of problems, because now, in the aftermath, all the urgency is gone. Like, in Final Fantasy X, you never knew when Sin was gonna pop up, what town he was gonna destroy next, or how the hell you were even meant to fight this stupid thing. And then when you do find out how to fight it, well, you don't feel much better after that. But Yuna just remains so freaking driven throughout the story, it gets to the point you think stopping her might be harder than stopping Sin itself. Well, the only thing driving Yuna forward in 10.2 is the possibility that Titus, I don't even know, her lover from the first game, might still be alive. I'm using the terms still and alive fairly loosely here. Anyway, Yuna sees a recording of someone who appears to be him, and so the hunt is on to see if she can find more information about it. I mean, I'll be the first to come out shouting from the rooftops about how great and awesome love is, but when you really look at some of the situations hoisted onto Yuna's shoulders in Final Fantasy X, it's kind of hard not to notice that 10.2 really just doesn't have any of those kind of moments. Definitely nothing like that. More so than any love story, 10.2's urgency stems from the uprising of the Youth League against what remains of the faithful who now call themselves New Yevon. Unfortunately, these campaigns are headed by new, unfamiliar characters who you don't really get to know until after you've already picked a side, which you will have to do. And if all this wasn't complicated enough, you have this third, indie group on the side, the Machine Faction. So they're set on bringing machines back to the world, and they've taken up headquarters in Jose Temple for some reason. All this infighting culminates in Chapter 4, during which Eureka find a way to show the world where all their fighting is leading them. It is arguably Ten2's finest moment. It's a great song. It's a nice way for Yuna to kind of save the world again, you know, only this time from itself. Even though it is the same beautiful world, and thank goodness, because what a great world it is. Sometimes things just seem weirdly scattered around in it. Remember those god-awful abominations from the first game, who only appeared in the last few areas? Well, now they're basically just everywhere, even in the temples. It's just kind of weird how you see all these enemies from late game, end game Final Fantasy X just roaming around in random parts of the world in 10-2. Even other enemies in the game, like the Flans, where originally you kind of had to strategize, have the right spell and all that, well now they've been all pretty much nerfed so you can just hit them with physical attacks, boom, you're gone. Which is kind of necessary, I guess, given that not everyone would happen to be using a black mage at the time. I spoke to the end of my breath there, I don't like doing that. It kind of feels like a lot of the focus has shifted away from ascertaining the weakness of enemies, and more so onto figuring out how you're trying to build your own party. Which, if I'm being honest here, I don't mind that much. There's less of an end to justify the means, but the means is actually a lot of fun. There's no sphere grid in 10-2, so stat gains are automatic as you level up, which is a little unfortunate, because who can forget filling in those strength plus 4s for Auron? Man, you could feel the difference with every one of those. And if you won the strength sphere by beating the Luca goers, man oh man. On the other hand, it's nice having access to so many abilities and being able to pick and choose what you want early in the game instead of being locked onto a singular path for so long. Plus, it's super interesting to start a New Game Plus back at level 1, carrying your abilities with you so that you can use them to just clean house as you level up all over again twice as fast. It's almost like Cookie Clicker. Oh god, don't remind me. Speaking of New Game Plus, this is a very difficult game to 100% in a single run. It can be done, but more than likely you'll have to complete it across multiple playthroughs. Luckily, aside from being a fast-paced game, 10-2 is also relatively short. My first playthrough was about 18 hours. It ended up taking me 4 playthroughs and about 60 hours to get to 100%, but each time I was doing different things and feeling my power grow across multiple playthroughs. It was interesting. 10-2 is a more open game than the first. It's funny how 13 gets all the flack for being a giant hallway, when 10 is really not that much different. 10-2 allows you access to the entire world of Spira right from the get-go. In each of its 5 chapters, the game tells you where all the important story events are happening, so you can just go straight to them, or you can just explore. Or you can just die! Of course, a lot of the non-important events will have you doing some sort of side quest or minigame, and most of those are pretty bad. But if you want the best ending, you gotta do them all. And that includes this one here, in which you are working for some kind of advertising company to spread the word about some crap I don't even remember. So basically, you're just going around talking to random people in the world and advertising to them by using one of 5 catchphrases. But there's no way for you to know which one is going to work on them, so you just gotta save scum it or just guess and hope that you gather enough interest to pass whatever test it is you're even trying to pass there. So, have fun Googling that one! There are also some percentage points that you get by remembering to sleep in the airship cabin once in each chapter, which, why would you even do that when the game auto-heals you every time you get on the ship anyway? I don't know. Some of the minigames are fun though. Sphere Break is awesome if you're a math nerd. All you gotta do is find 2 that add up to 10 and it's a breeze. And this shooting minigame in Besaid kept me busy for hours back in the day. Handing out balloons in Luca leaves something to be desired, as does 10-2's Blitzball, but hey, it's better than being dead. 10-2 is nice enough to keep the main cast around and advance their storylines, without Auron, of course. Sad. Even secondary characters like Klasko, Machin, and Dennis Rodman get to stick around. For the most part, though, they play second fiddle to the new cast of characters, including Seymour Butts Light, Snow, Dan the third shift manager at Motomart, Ultimecia, Booblust, Professor Snape, Cloudus, Unifer Lopez, and the Texas Painsaw Massacre. No, seriously, Pain is actually pretty cool. She helps alleviate the sting of not having Auron around, and her story is at least decent. In large part, though, that is 10-2's biggest weakness. Its story just really isn't all there. Part of the story relies on this 12-minute monologue by Machin, not even making this up. But in its defense, I will say, at least the game has the awareness to poke fun at itself in that moment. It's almost like the game already knows there's no way in hell it's gonna match up to the story of the first one, so might as well just have fun with it, right? Besides, Machin's voice actor totally rules. 10-2 does a lot more telling than showing when it comes to Vegnagun, its counterpart to Sin. This thing is like a giant machina they made long ago to fight Sin, but somehow it started sensing emotions and running away when someone would come to destroy it. Then it somehow ends up in the far plane and just, ugh. I probably should have actually replayed the game before making this, since I kinda haven't completed it since 2004. Anyway, of course I would be lying to say that 10's story isn't without its contrivances. I mean, this can't be the first time in 1,000 years that anybody noticed Sin has weak points, but the bigger issue with 10 to me was always Titus's mom. I'm just gonna say Titus, I don't even care. The crux of his entire character arc is his hatred for his dad, likely resulting from a kind of Oedipus complex, but we never even so much as learn her name. It just feels like something is missing there. It's commonly believed that she married into fame, and some have suggested Titus might even have been accidental. I know it's kind of a moot point since they're all dreams of the faith and all, but then does that mean his entire story is moot as well? I don't know. 10-2 has some nice world building. Seeing Kilika Village come back stronger than ever is totally a delight. And even though it's kind of a small thing, I can't help but appreciate that they showed us how it connects to Kilika Woods. Like before, you would go from this screen to this screen. I just thought it was cool that they elaborated on it. You also get to see a lot more of Bavel and Beaconell Island. There's an extra path branching off Thunder Plains, you know, just little things like that. Of course, the Calmlands and Xanarkand have suffered, but at least they managed to work that into Yuna's story. It is a little interesting that even though Yuna has moved on from a draconian regime that was trying to kill her, she still holds respect for the historical integrity of these places that represented it on which the modern world has started to trample. What 10-2 lacks in story, it makes up for with the gameplay. Not since Final Fantasy V have job classes played so heavily into the strategy. In fact, only 3 other games in the series at this point in time had toyed with the concept at all. Here, the battles go by super fast, leveling up job this fast. You can assign which abilities you want to learn from each job. Confuse-proof, praise be to Yevon. You as the player are contributing a lot more to the fight than before. You virtually never stop managing team composition, even in the midst of battle. Throw in a few chain attacks and you're almost halfway to playing Contra 3 at this point. I thought it was a little annoying how certain perks you had to like change your clothes to get them. Like they have this one dress sphere where you can get break damage limit, but you have to go in wearing one outfit and change to a different one in the middle of battle just to get it. And it's like, can't you just have this as an auto ability instead of having to do that every single time? Because once you're done with the battle, then you can start the next battle, you have to go back to your old clothes, get into the battle, change again. It's just more trouble than it's worth. There are ways to get break damage limit besides that, but you're taking up a really valuable accessory slot when you do that. So, I mean, and I suppose, you know, break damage limit's a big deal. It should cost that much to do it. There's no denying they were taking a risk with this sequel, and they knew it. Final Fantasy X-2 did have a bit of a rough surfacing upon its release, but I'm happy to see people have kind of warmed up to it in recent years. Say what you want about the cheesy true ending and how much it ruins the first game and all, but lest we forget, this is the shot that follows the credits. Kinda seems like he was always destined to return, doesn't it? Besides, doesn't Yuna deserve to be happy after what she's done? Yeah. In the end, I think the selling point of Final Fantasy overall is the story. In that sense, 10 is the better Final Fantasy game. When it comes to strategy, I don't know, I think 10-2's got the market corner on that one. It makes sense why longtime fans of the series shunned it, and why new fans who might not have had those same expectations came to embrace it. Which one is the right game for you? Well, it depends on what you care about. There is no wrong answer to that question, and that's why being a gamer is awesome. Hey, thanks so much for watching my video. Toss me a thumbs up and maybe I'll send you a 3 Musketeers in the mail. Thanks also to Poltergust 5000 for doing the drawings of me here. And thanks to Egoraptor for not sewing my pants off. See you guys next time.